I've had a great career. Once the label got involved, I started to fall out of love with music.
Bobby Marcel Wilson, aka Bobby V, BKA Bobby Valentino, born February 27, 1980. R&B in the mid-2000s was a playground for rising stars, and for a moment, Bobby V was one of its brightest. He had the look, the charm, and most importantly, the backing of a powerhouse label in disturbing the peace. When his debut single, Slow Down, hit, it was the kind of moment that signaled the arrival of a new star. The song was everywhere, on the radio, in the clubs, and looping on every teenage girl's MySpace page. For an R&B singer at the time, this was perfect entry into stardom. Yet, if you fast forward just a few years, Bobby V's name stopped carrying weight in mainstream music. His second album, Special Occasion, had all the makings of a successful follow-up, but something was missing. The momentum from his debut couldn't be sustained. His singles didn't hit as hard, the label didn't seem as invested, and the industry was shifting in a way that left him behind. By the time the 2010s rolled around, Bobby V was no longer a star, just another artist who had a moment and let it slip. For someone with his talent, the fall shouldn't have come so quickly. But the reality of the music industry is unforgiving. A strong debut can open the door, but if you don't evolve, if you don't make the right moves, and if you don't keep the audience engaged, the door will close just as fast as it opened. Bobby V had all the tools to stick around, but something held him back. Even outside of music, controversy didn't do him any favors. A 2017 incident involving a transgender woman exposing him for allegedly skipping payment on an encounter brought his name back into the public conversation, but not in a way that revived his career. Instead, it became another example of how some artists, once they lose their footing in the industry, can only make headlines for the wrong reasons. Bobby V's story isn't one of lack of talent. It's a story of missed opportunities, questionable decisions, and an industry that moves on without warning. He had the spark, he just couldn't keep the fire burning. He achieved notable success in the mid-2000s, starting with his gold-selling debut album Bobby Valentino in 2005. His breakout single, Slow Down, became a massive hit, reaching #1 on the Billboard R&B chart and solidifying his presence in the industry. Even with all that, for these reasons, Bobby V didn't become the star expected. What happened? Let's talk about it. Salute to Street Dream Swish on IG for this request. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth Music. Let's get it, man. Take a minute to like, subscribe, and comment on who I should do next. Bobby V is a singer-songwriter that grew up in Mississippi before moving to Atlanta, where his musical journey began. He first gained attention in the late 1990s as a member of the R&B group Mr., best known for their single Blackberry Molasses. However, the group disbanded after one album, forcing Bobby to reset his career. Years later, he re-emerged as a solo artist, catching the attention of Ludacris and signing with Disturbing the Peace under Def Jam. His self-titled debut album in 2005 was a breakthrough, with Slow Down and Tell Me dominating the charts. The album went platinum, making Bobby one of R&B's rising stars. However, his follow-up album, Special Occasion in 2007, struggled commercially, and by 2008, he parted ways with his label. Though he continued releasing music independently, his mainstream presence faded, and his career never regained the momentum of his early success. Stunt #1, the sophomore slump and label issues. One of the biggest turning points in Bobby V's career was the release of his second album, Special Occasion, in 2007. After the massive success of his debut, expectations were high. His smooth vocals and strong debut suggested he could be one of the next great R&B stars, but something went wrong. The album underperformed commercially, failing to produce a hit on the level of Slow Down, and despite solid production, it lacked the same impact. A major issue was how the album was handled by his label Disturbing the Peace and Def Jam. The rollout seemed inconsistent, and Bobby himself later admitted that many decisions were out of his control. The lead single, Turn the Page, didn't generate enough buzz, and when Anonymous featuring Timbaland was finally pushed, it was too late to recapture momentum. The label's lack of strong promotion showed a clear shift in priorities. Bobby V was no longer a top focus. Frustrated with how things were handled, he parted ways with Def Jam in 2008, deciding to go independent. While this gave him creative freedom, it also meant losing the major label push that had helped him break through. Many R&B artists at the time were struggling to adapt as hip-hop became more dominant in mainstream music, and without a strong label backing him, Bobby V quickly started to fade from the spotlight. His talent wasn't the problem. The industry was changing, and artists who couldn't evolve or lacked the right team behind them risked being left behind. Unfortunately for Bobby V, his sophomore album's failure set the stage for his slow decline, proving that a strong debut alone isn't enough to secure long-term success. Stunt number 2, lack of artistic evolution. In the fast-moving music industry, an artist's ability to evolve is often the difference between longevity and irrelevance. Bobby V entered the scene in 2005 with a fresh sound, and his nostalgic R&B blended well with early 2000s production, making him an instant success. However, as the years passed, his music failed to evolve in a way that kept listeners engaged. One of the biggest shifts in the late 2000s was the rise of hip-hop dominance in mainstream music. R&B artists who adapted, like Chris Brown, who incorporated dance-heavy pop, or The Weeknd, who infused darker, moodier aesthetics, managed to stay relevant. Meanwhile, Bobby V's style remained largely the same. His songs continued to focus on traditional R&B themes, romance, seduction, and smooth melodies, but the production and delivery didn't offer anything new. Even when he collaborated with rappers like Lil Wayne on Mrs. Officer and Plies on Phone Number, those moments felt like short-lived attempts rather than deliberate reinvention. Another issue was his inability to create a signature artistic identity beyond a smooth R&B croner. Some artists have distinct personas that evolve with time, like Usher, who transitioned from teen heartthrob to mature superstar, while Trey Songz leaned into his bad boy appeal. Bobby V, however, never crafted a strong personal brand. He remained talented but generic, and as new artists emerged with dynamic sounds, his presence became less necessary. By the time the 2010s arrived, Bobby V was releasing music independently, but few people outside his core fan base were paying attention. His lack of artistic growth meant his songs no longer stood out in an industry that had moved forward. Talent alone wasn't enough. Without reinvention, Bobby V became another name on the long list of R&B singers who couldn't adapt to the times. Stunt number 3, controversy and public perception.
Where you going? Look everybody. Look everybody, Bobby Valentino. Where you going? Bobby, I can still see you. Stop it. I can still see. Look at your legs. Oh my gosh. Bobby, your pants are right there where you left them. Look at Bobby V. Look at Bobby Valentino. Slow down. I just want to get my payment.
For artists, especially those who have already faded from the mainstream, controversy can either reignite interest in their careers or permanently damage their reputation. Unfortunately for Bobby V, his biggest headline in years came from a situation that didn't benefit him at all. In 2017, Bobby V found himself at the center of controversy when a transgender woman publicly accused him of skipping payment after a private encounter.
You like wee. Bobby, I need my money, Bobby. Give me my money. He'll be back.
The situation quickly went viral, with video footage showing Bobby V rushing out of an apartment while being filmed and called out for not paying for services rendered. Whether true or not, the damage was done. Social media exploded with jokes, memes, and debates, turning him into a trending topic for all the wrong reasons. Instead of addressing the situation with clarity or professionalism, Bobby V's initial response only made things worse. He dismissed the claims and later tried to shift the focus back to his music, but the moment had already defined him in a way he couldn't shake. Unlike other artists who have successfully navigated scandals, Bobby V didn't have a strong enough public persona to withstand the scrutiny. His career was already struggling, and instead of reviving interest in his music, the controversy only reinforced his decline. Beyond this incident, his public perception had already suffered from years of inconsistency. Fans saw him as an artist who peaked early and never recaptured his magic. The 2017 controversy was just the final blow, turning him into a punchline rather than a respected veteran in R&B. By this point, Bobby V wasn't just struggling with music relevance, he was now battling the internet's short attention span, where careers are easily forgotten but scandals last forever. All in all, Bobby V's career is a textbook example of how talent alone isn't enough to sustain success in the music industry. He had everything he needed and the right connections, but his journey was derailed by poor label support, a failure to evolve artistically, and a controversy that overshadowed his legacy. His sophomore slump set him back, his unwillingness to adapt kept him stagnant, and his public scandal sealed his fate in mainstream music. While he continues to release music independently and tour for his core fan base, Bobby V's name is more often brought up as a nostalgic reminder of mid-2000s R&B rather than an active force in today's industry. His story serves as a lesson. He had a spark when he started, but soon after, for these reasons, his growth was stunted. Salute, much respect. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth Music, and I'm out.